Welcome to episode 57 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV show, anime, manga, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle Springer.
Yeah, howdy.
Howdy, Kyle. How
How's
are
it
you
been
this
going?
week?
My week has been good. I went to go see Detective Pikachu this morning.
Oh, I went yesterday.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
It was a very sweet time.
Yeah,
I was
just gonna say we'll talk about that more when we do a Reactor Core episode on that.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, you get a pack of Pokemon cards when you go see this film.
My theater didn't have them.
What?
Depressing.
Oh no, maybe it's like they ran out in that day, because I went a Saturday
yeah.
afternoon. Maybe they're that hot of a commodity.
Maybe.
Oh, well, I opened up my
Nice.
cards and I got a Pikachu and then I got a Psyduck, and I'm standing in line ahead of this like really talkative like 7-year-old boy, and he's telling me all about the super powerful Pokemon that he got. And I'm like, "Oh cool, I got a Psyduck." And he's
like, oh,
you
that's
can
a
tell
weak Pokemon.
yeah, he's trying to not tell me that, but he's like, "Oh, Psyduck, he's well,
I guess he's cool.
you know, Psyduck is." Like, he's just not saying anything about it. And I'm like, "It's okay. I just think he's cute. I don't care that he's not powerful."
But Melissa, how dare you not want to be the best?
Like, no one ever was. Well, somebody has already, so it ain't gonna be me. I'll just
Oh,
take my
well.
cute duck.
Oh well. Besides that, my week has been good.
Good to hear.
Yeah. So, we're here to talk about Brave. This
We
week, though.
are. It is Mother's Day as we are recording this, so I pitched this as a mother-themed movie.
Yeah, and I think it is a good one for
Yeah.
Mother's Day stuff.
This was a fun rewatch. I hadn't seen this in a couple years. This is the Pixar film Brave. This came out in 2012, and this was directed by Mark Andrews and Brenda Chapman.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know. I'm not familiar with who all directed all of the Pixar movies and stuff like that, but was Brenda Chapman one of the first women to direct a Pixar movie?
Believe so, yes.
One of, if not the first one, because I saw something about that on their Wikipedia page. I guess I'm kind of looking at here, but it didn't really say that exactly.
I'm just holding the Blu-ray case, and that's not like a fact they put on a Blu-ray case. Like,
yeah, I don't see them doing that.
Look, it's a lady this time. Put a sticker on the box.
Yeah. I mean, hey, sometimes you kind of need to with the way these companies are run and stuff like that. But yeah, this was good. I had seen this once before, and I think it was one that I watched online somewhere, Netflix or something. I'm not sure. Because I never saw it in theaters. So I just watched it at home, like, oh, I guess I never really saw that Pixar film. I'm gonna go watch that one, you know?
Yeah.
But I remembered it being really good, but it never stood out to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that might be what happened to a lot of people. I saw this in theaters. I think like somebody got me this Blu-ray like for Christmas that year, the year after. I probably watched it then. And I hadn't watched it since then. And I had fond but like vague memories of it. And this seems like a middling film to a lot of people.
Interesting. So yeah, I was excited to watch it again.
Yeah, it was a very pleasant revisit.
Should we move on to a like a short synopsis / general review stuff?
Absolutely.
Before we do spoilers and all that.
This takes place in medieval Scotland, and there's a princess named Merida, and her mother is trying to groom her to become this great queen, this great leader of the kingdom, and to be very prim and proper and always putting the community first. And part of what she needs to do is that she needs to
A queen
choose.
must be this. A queen must be that. A queen must be
Exactly.
this too, and that too. A queen must also be this. A
Oh
queen
yeah,
must
there's
never be.
an entire montage of that. And the next thing coming up in her future queenly duties is to choose a husband. Well, to have a contest to choose her
Yeah, I was
husband.
gonna say she doesn't
That's
really
the whole
get to
point of the
choose.
thing, is that she doesn't get to choose anything. Three young men from three local clans come to her castle, and they are going to compete in a contest to win her favor. She's like, I don't want this. I don't want a husband. Like, you see, they're out there like shooting archery for my heart. I'm the best archer around here. I'll be shooting for my own hand.
Yeah, well, she finds a loophole in the stuff, and that's how she gets things started with
And
that.
she gets into an argument with her mother, who's so mad at her for breaking all of this tradition. And she runs off into the woods and she finds a witch. And she asks the witch, I need a spell to change my fate. I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like my mother is standing in my way and I need magic to fix this.
Yeah.
And then the magic spell turns her mom into a bear.
There you go. Let's move on to general thoughts and stuff before we get to too many spoilery stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that was not in the teasers, but eventually got out there in the trailers. And like this, I think it's general common knowledge. There's a bear in this movie, and the bear is her mom. But we'll stop there.
Yeah. So yeah, we both mentioned that we had fond memories of watching this, but we had only seen it like once or twice before, but it didn't really stand out.
Yeah.
Having rewatched it, what are you thinking now?
I love the magic fairy tale elements of this so much more. That's something I've always loved, but as I get older, I realize that is really one of my favorite things. Like, I will take fantasy above a lot of other story genres.
Okay.
Like, I'm a big sci-fi and superhero person, but I don't know, fantasy like gets me right in my like little
I'm the
girl
sci-fi
heart.
superhero one.
Yeah, that's you, and I am too. But like, this is the oldest genre. This is the earliest genre you get into as a kid, or at least it was for me. Lots of like fairy tales and princess stories and things
Magic
like this.
Stuff. Once upon a time, there was
yeah, it hits me.
Yeah.
So it was really good to revisit that. Like, I remember liking this movie for those parts, and now that really sticks out to me so much more. Like, what a good, fun fantasy tale.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I think I might describe it as a return to Disney's roots, but with a new twist. Like, if you look at the older Disney films, yeah, they do rely heavily on fantasy style stuff and princesses and knights and castles and just this kind of magical stuff there. And this returns to that kind of genre.
Yeah,
but then
and this
twists all of that on its head.
And this is a Pixar movie, but because of their connection, their collaboration with Disney, Merida is one of the official Disney princesses.
Yeah.
She's up there with like Snow White and Cinderella and Belle and Jasmine and all of them all throughout the years.
I more recently saw her in Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Oh, nice.
That one. I guess I saw her in the like trailers and commercials because I haven't seen either of those.
I haven't seen that one yet either. You never saw the original, Kyle.
I saw bits and pieces.
We got to get to this. I haven't seen the sequel yet, but Wreck-It Ralph is one of my favorite Disney movies, like post-childhood. Cool. It's such a good one.
Good stuff. Yeah, I really liked this too. I think I'm more interested in kind of the magic and mythology.
Yeah.
But it's also something that they don't really talk about in this film. Like, they have that whole like will o' the wisp kind of, hey, here's this magical creature that at least here in America we don't really hear much about. That's more of an like Irish guy. I don't even know. I'm
somewhere
out of my
around
ass
the
here now,
British Isles, I think. Yeah.
but yeah, like it is this mythological kind of creature of legend, magical being kind of thing, and I like that. I
Hmm.
want
Good.
more of that in
Yeah.
there.
The magic is really there to service the character journey. And like once they figure out magic stuff is
Hmm.
happening, they don't really like stop and talk about it at all.
Yeah. Um. So I think for me, after having rewatched it again, I would still say it's a great film. It's
Hmm.
fantastic. There's a lot that I love about it, which we'll get into in a sec here. But I think it's also fantastic in just how short it is. It's an hour and a
Yeah,
half.
it's a very efficient story.
Yes. Yeah. Which is something I watched this on my computer, and I happened to like hit the mouse while I was watching it, and I was like, oh, I'm halfway through. I was like, oh, nice. Like I like it.
Yeah.
This seems short, but
Hmm.
there's not going to be much more to this. And yeah, like it's not one that's like, oh, this was really short and it felt rushed. It felt like
It doesn't, no.
no, it feels like they knew exactly the story they wanted to tell and
Hmm.
took out everything that didn't really necessarily matter. If
Hmm.
that made sense, and like you said, it was just very efficient.
Yeah.
Should we get to housekeeping and
Yeah.
spoilers?
I think a good queen keeps a clean house. Yes.
There you go. Housekeeping. Melissa, we just released a brand new Patreon exclusive
Yes.
episode of the review show.
Speaking of fairy tale fantasy stories, we talked about Shrek Retold, which is a YouTube project where a ton of different artists got together and redid Shrek. It's mostly animated. It's like 70-30 animated to live action bits. But they covered it's the exact same story of Shrek that you know, but just
Different styles, different interpretations.
yeah, like all the same dialogue is there, all the music is there, but it's all
Hmm.
covered by all of these people, just like however they feel about Shrek, like chopped up into little tiny frenetic bits is up there on the
It's
screen.
a wild ride for
Yeah,
sure.
it's weird and really heartwarming that all the people came together to make this thing.
Patreon supporters at the $3
Hmm.
tier can go check that out, as well as our other exclusive episodes of the review show. We have a couple of those now. We got
Yeah,
Batman Beyond and X-Files and Shrek Retold.
what a variety of
Yeah,
things.
exactly. So that would be patreon.com/the Whatnauts. That's where you
Hmm.
can support us, or at the $1 tier, you can
Fun.
get access to the live streams of this
Hmm.
show, and all of our other episodes early. On the regular review show, last
Yeah.
week we covered Castle Rock, a
Hmm.
Hulu original show based on characters and settings of Stephen King,
Hmm.
which was an interesting one to watch and to talk about. Highly
Yeah.
recommend going to check that out. What did we talk about on the captain's log this past week?
Was
You had an incredible story.
yeah, we covered like a little bit of pop culture news of the week for a while, and then because it was our 50th episode, I dragged out one of my favorite wild suburban tales to tell the audience.
Joshua Castle has a bad day. I yeah, I think that about sums it up.
Hmm. Hmm. It's about me driving into a fancy neighborhood and encountering a very strange man.
Sounds good. Well, that is about all the housekeeping we have for now. Go check out all of our other podcasts on the whatnauts.com or wherever you get your podcast. Just search the Whatnauts and all of our stuff will pop up right there. I guess I should also say we have an end game spoiler cast.
We do, yeah. Like
we
if
haven't
you,
recorded it yet, but we will have a Detective Pikachu one.
yeah, we're hitting all the big blockbusters this year.
Yeah, so that will be on our Reactor Core podcast. So go check that out as well. But Melissa, I think it's time for spoilers.
Let's get on in. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the bear and even more beyond the bear.
There you go.
Yeah,
did you get a
do
chance to go look at the new spoiler alert thing that we have? now?
I have not yet.
You should. It's on
I'll have to do
YouTube for
that.
the
I'll do
first
that
one.
later. I'll do that later tonight. Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So we are in spoiler territory
Hmm.
right now. If you haven't seen this film, go check it out. I don't think it's on Netflix or Hulu, but I
Yeah,
could be
I
wrong
owned
about
it,
that.
so I didn't need to go looking for it.
Yeah,
But if you just wait, handful more months, it'll
Disney
be on Disney
Plus.
Plus.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
maybe
really
you
look forward
found
to having that as a
our
resource.
our our podcast like a year down the road. You're like, I
Yes.
remember that movie Brave. I'm gonna watch it
Hello.
again and listen to their
Hello to the
episode.
future.
Yeah.
Speaking
Exactly.
of time travel, I remember when this movie came out, I had a Tumblr blog at the time where I was obsessed with cartoons. I was
Hmm.
really into animation in college, not from an actual like I don't draw. I wasn't doing it and I wasn't studying it like real hard like an art historian or anything like that, but I just found the whole thing generally fascinating. And I remember following, the path of this movie as it was coming out because I would have been blogging about stuff like that during this time. And I remember the teaser trailers, it looked like, oh, it's just a bear she has to fight. And then as more trailers came out and more promotional things, it's pretty apparent. Oh, she wants her mom to be different, and there's a bear. It seems like the bear is her mom.
Exactly.
So I'm like, I think I can put this ahead of the spoiler warning. I think that's general knowledge. Everybody knows that about this movie.
I mean, technically, the movie's been out for a long time, so I think
Yeah,
all
7
spoilers are
years
kind of
already.
out there already. Um, but yeah, she kind of has an argument with her mom, and that's things escalate,
Hmm.
and Merida ends up slashing this quilt perfectly along the line between her and her mom. Like literally perfectly, because it's like right where they are holding
You're you're such a
hands.
boy. That's not a quilt.
You know what? It's a tapestry, okay?
It is a tapestry. A
It's a
quilt is
quilt
little
to me.
pieces of fabric all sewn together. That's straight needlework on
What do you
there.
think fabric is made out of? It's made out of like all the yarn and needle and thread and stuff like that.
Now, if she made that
All
and then she
squares are
made like
rectangles, not all rectangles are squares. I get it.
if she made that and then 11 others and then stitched all of them together, you'd call that a quilt.
All 30,000 pieces of fabric, just individual threads. um yeah, and so that's kind of what starts the
Hmm.
rift. It is this symbolic moment of, uh-oh,
Yeah.
there is this literal rift between mother and daughter.
Yeah, and you
uh
can tell it's this tapestry that the mom has been working on forever because Merida has these three like triplet little brothers who in the movie look like they're about, I don't know, like 3 or 4, and they're like little babies in the tapestry.
mhm.
And Merida looks much younger. So the mom's been slowly working at this for years and is like almost done. And then Merida slices right through
Yeah,
it.
and it looks like it's expensive too, because it looks like it has like gold weaved in
Yeah,
there
only the best
somehow,
for the
and yeah.
queen. Yes.
So uh and as a result, I guess the mom also kind of punishes her and burns the
Yeah.
bow that she has.
Merida, like, she's all about archery. Like, her
Mhm.
dad's like this big, swaggering warrior king, and he gives her a little toy bow, and she's a little kid, and she really takes to it. And so when she's mad about castle life and she needs to go out and escape, she takes her bow and arrow with her.
Did did she ever get a new bow later on?
The mom does fish it out of the fire, and it looks like it's salvageable, I think. I don't remember exactly.
I have a feeling like she didn't, but again, we mentioned this movie is very efficient. Maybe they thought that was one of the things that, okay, it doesn't really
Yeah,
need
or
to
maybe
be
like
in
there was
there.
a shot of it, and that was the time both of us just looked away from the screen and say, like, "Hey, what time is it?"
Yeah, exactly.
We very easily could have missed it.
Because I think that's one thing that maybe could have been in this
Mhm.
film. Um, if they are trying to mend things, they do focus only on that tapestry and not this like, hey, I commissioned the
Mhm.
wood carver maybe not the same one that is the witch in this, but like, hey,
Mhm.
I somehow made you a new bow. You helped me
Yeah.
fix the tapestry. I helped you fix your
Yeah.
bow. There was no thing on the mother's part. It seemed
E-
like.
Ah.
I
So
mean, the,
the
the the mom didn't really do anything wrong except just be a mom. Like she just wants the best, and in like,
and she's the mom is very, very rigid. Like
yeah,
you have to be a princess, and a princess is these things. You don't get to do your own version. You don't get to reinvent yourself. You don't get to have quirks. You need to be a textbook storybook princess.
yeah,
And one thing I really like about this movie, I kept thinking of this as like a middle point between Aladdin and Moana.
okay. How so?
In the way they treat what a princess does, and a princess in Moana she is a chieftain. It's the equivalent of a princess, but like chieftain is the word used in her culture.
Sure.
Like the role, I'll just go ahead and keep saying princess though, just for the sake of efficiency, but I know she's a chieftain. That is a point of it. The role a princess has in her community and what she means to the people. Like I remember I loved Aladdin when I was a little kid. And one of the big conflicts in that is that Princess Jasmine, you have to get married, and for the people, and to be a princess means to get married, and it's all of this. Well, you have to do this because it's expected of you, but there's very little of, okay, who's expecting this? Like, what did the,
Right.
commoners of Agrabah think about what she's doing? Like, if she gets married or not, how does that affect them? What is her role in the larger community, not among just this like legacy of a princess has always done this? Like, what role does she play
Yeah.
in the larger world? And Brave opens that up a little bit more beyond just like sort of courtly traditions. It's like she has to play a role among the community. Like she has to be a speaker. She has to learn to unite people. She has to learn about the different clans and how they all cooperate with each other. And Aladdin is all about like, well, you have to get married. And she's like, I don't want to marry him, but I'll marry another guy. And Brave is all about, you have to get married. And she's like, I don't want to get married. And you move forward to
I
Moana,
don't
and
wanna.
she's very community focused. Like that's a big thing of that movie, is that she
Mm-hmm.
needs to find out what's the best thing for her people. And you see her doing all these different tasks, like, negotiating disputes, and like, helping with the kids, on the island, and helping with the agriculture. Like she's a real leader in that community.
Yeah.
And when she goes out, on the water after they've lived on the island the whole time, it's because, well, we need to find new islands. We need to find new places to fish and to grow. And it's also gone from, you have to marry someone, you're going to marry a different guy, to you have to marry someone, okay, you don't have to marry anyone right now. You can pick someone later, to Moana, where it's not brought up at all. The fact that,
Mm-hmm.
maybe she will or won't get married. It's entirely, oh, like she could rule on her own. Like she's the chieftain no matter her marital status.
Yeah. It's true.
I don't
That
I
makes
just think
sense.
it's interesting how the idea of a princess has grown a lot, like throughout the Disney and its series of films.
Yeah. They still have a ways to go, but
Hmm.
I think, yeah, that's mainly just because they have such a back catalog of like, it was always basically this one way, this fairy
Yeah.
tale
Hmm.
thing. Um, yeah, that I think is an interesting point.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with what you said. This is like a real head turn on a lot of things.
Hmm.
It we're like there's and I feel like that is a classic kind of fairy tale thing. Like there is a contest to decide who shall get the princess's hand.
It
That's
reminded me
old.
a lot of Robin Hood when they
Oh,
do
I
the
was gonna
archery contest, and he comes up looking, in the
in
in
the
the
bird costume.
hood there. Yeah,
I was gonna say it reminded me of Holes. Do you remember that story? You know Holes, right? Everybody in
digging
our
up
age
up
group knows
holes,
Holes. Okay, you remember there's
up
a story about his
holes.
great great grandfather and how he
Yeah,
wanted to marry the beautiful girl in the village, but the girl was really dumb, and like the dad offers, "Okay, girl, which of these two suitors do you want to marry?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know, you pick." And the dad's like, "Okay." Well, I don't care either. Whichever one of you has the fatter hog, whichever one of you has the larger pig that I can bring to market, you get to have my daughter's hand.
Who can I make the most money off of?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So that kind of contest
Yeah.
for a love, the contest for a marriage is like a very old kind of folktale fairy tale thing. And
Yeah.
this is I don't know, I can't name any other stories off the top of my head where the prize says, "No, I'm also a competitor.
And
And I'm the best at it by 1,000 miles."
it's an interesting twist where she's like, wait, I'm the firstborn of the clan. That
Yeah,
means I
I
can
like the
compete.
loophole. Yes.
Yeah. Which I think I already mentioned her not necessarily getting a new bow, but I think they make a big deal of her being this fantastic archer, and then
Yeah.
it doesn't really come into play in like the last 2/3 of the film.
It would have been nice to have like a coda on there, or even just like her mom decides she's going to give it a try. Like, okay, well, I tried to teach you needlepoint at some time. Can you try to teach me archery? The original title for this movie, the working title for it for a long time was The Bear and the Bow.
Hmm. Bear and the bow. Do you remember that movie Little Brother? I believe it was called. Or no,
Brother Bear?
yes, that one, Brother
Yeah.
Bear. That also reminds me a lot of this film because it's a very similar
That
story.
was also a man turned into a bear.
Yeah,
That's a movie I saw once, and I think it was while I was sick. So my memories of it are real unreliable.
that one I think even more people didn't see or forgot about. That
Yeah.
movie's actually really funny, or at least it was to me like 15 years ago, however long it was.
Yeah, yeah. I
I was
remember
like, this
liking it.
movie's so underrated. You guys should go check it out. It's hilarious. The Canadian moose,
Oh yeah,
funniest.
they were charming.
They were great. But yeah, I think once I had seen this, it struck me as odd. Of like, I've seen almost the same plot kind of happen where they have to like reconnect to each other, and that will bring them back to their human thing. I don't remember exactly what the plot of Brother Bear was, but it's a similar thing. I think they both get turned into bears in that one or something.
No, isn't it like there's a guy who's a hunter and he has a brother and a bear kills his brother and then he feels like vengeance for the bear, not realizing like, well, you guys were showing up trying to hunt them. Like the bear, it is the bear's right and natural way to kill your brother if the bear feels like it needs to kill your brother.
Remember, because it was like a Native American Indian kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like it was like yeah, it was or like a First Nation story up in Canada. I feel like it was Canadian based.
Yeah.
Or maybe those two moose just like traveled real far and they're in like
it was just
South
right
Dakota
there on
somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a long journey.
So let's see here. Speaking of bears,
yes,
'cause that is a big plot point in the film. How did you feel about the whole, I guess, kind of backstory about this other Prince Bear thing that got turned into a bear? How did that factor in for you? What did you think of that?
I completely forgot about that part of the movie.
I did too.
Like, I think I remembered there was like an enemy bear out there, but I forgot like that was also a person cursed who lost all of their humanity and is now just this vengeful super bear running around out there. I was like genuinely surprised again watching this, which was a really neat thing to happen to me. Like, oh, I forgot all about this. I remember now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of thought that they almost glossed over it. I was a little disappointed that it wasn't in there more, or at least didn't have a moment at the start of the film where I felt like it was more prevalent. Like we see the whole thing of like, hey, there's this bear that attacks. That's how the father loses the leg and stuff like that. But down the road in the film, when they discover that like underground cave site,
Yeah, it's like in
burial site,
like
I
the
don't know.
ruins of a stone castle.
Yeah, they make it's like, oh, this is like the story you used to tell me and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't remember a story that you used to like. It
No,
seemed
like you
like,
don't remember that part?
I
This is
mean,
when like
they mention it, but like I felt like it wasn't mentioned enough for it to like stick with me.
I think they mentioned it enough. I don't know. Maybe I just have a sharper memory than you or something, but
I
like
was just like, I don't know who these brothers are and why
no,
one of
that
them
was
got
the
turned
story.
into the bears. Like
You don't remember the story?
no,
Like
I
and it
like
actually
well, like I said, I remember them mentioning that, but it was not enough for it to
it's
like
not a mention.
stick
I
with
think they
me.
talk about it for like 3 solid minutes out of a 90-minute film, so that's
Which is
kind of
not
a
much.
lot.
I think it's not much.
I think especially because when they introduce that story, you don't know that's a plot point yet. So I think if they
Yeah,
told a longer story, then that would telegraph that too strongly to you, and maybe you wouldn't get that surprise at the end. I feel like it was measured out pretty appropriately.
maybe
And another thing,
it's my whole thing of just like wanting more magic and stuff in there.
I
Like if
do
she
love the
found like
magic. Yes.
she obviously believes in this magical
Mhm.
stuff, right? Like she doesn't question this woodcarver's abilities when she finds
Mhm.
her. She just goes, "Oh, you're a witch," and just like immediately is like, "I knew it!" Like, haha, magic is real, you know. But then, yeah, there's no like investigation into like, hey, is this bear still out there? It's been a long time. Maybe this whole story about this guy being turned into a bear or
No,
or
but
like,
see, that's the thing. Okay, so they know that there were the four brothers. The kingdom was split
mhm,
among the four brothers. The one brother, like, got power hungry, tried to, like, attack his fellow brothers, and then that sort of made the society crumble. And
yeah,
then, like, that's where these clans, like, the
the,
clan she is royalty of, had to rise up out of that.
yeah,
And I think it's told that, like, he became like dark and monstrous, but it's not until she like sees the bear in the castle. And I think maybe she remembers the wood carving witch saying like, "Oh, the last person who came to me asking for this was a guy who wanted all of this power," that she figures out, "Oh, oh, he turned into a literal bear. This wasn't all like metaphorical,
yeah.
parable storytelling. That's him."
That's what happened. Yeah,
I like that.
which
I
like
like that part of the story.
I'm not saying that the stuff didn't connect. It all connected
Mhm.
and it's all there. But yeah, I just
You
because
just wanted the Lego pieces to be bigger.
a little
You
bit.
don't wanna have to keep
I
connecting the
feel
little 2
like
parts to each other.
10 or 15 more minutes of the film just to like kind of pad some of that stuff out, I think for me would have made it not necessarily more enjoyable, but flow a little bit better. Like we said, it's very efficient and tightly
Yeah.
packed, and I think that's not necessarily a bad
No.
thing. But it's yeah, it's just like I feel like one or two more mentions and another exploration of the magical mythical stuff happening here, I feel like would have made things fit just a little bit better.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I can see where you're coming from, and I mentioned earlier that once she finds out magic is real, and once the rest of the family finds out magic is
Hmm.
real, it's like, well, okay. Well, back to us being a family then. And I don't know, I kind of like that. It serves a purpose in the story for sure. Like this is about, self-actualization and,
Right.
the realizing that your family comes from that same place that you do and just sort of building stronger bonds with each other. It's not really about like the discovery of the wonders of the world so much. So I get why
Yeah.
they just move on from the magic, and I kind of I love that like mother and daughter are making a tapestry of Merida and Bear Mom at the end. I'm really entertained by the idea that this like tremendous magical event is just like a fun family backstory they'll tell at like holiday parties.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
remember when I was a bear? I
um,
like that it's just there. Like, I love the fantasy element, but I love that it is always there to serve this family story.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that's what they knew this story was.
Yeah.
It is this family story. It is this mother and daughter story, coming of age, like
Hmm.
understanding. Oh, okay, now I know why you want me to be the way you are. Yeah. Um, but I'm also a huge like I really love great world building, and
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day that's what it was for me. It's so tightly knit around this one story that I don't get much of the
Mhm.
world around them.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from with that. Yeah, like I wanted to learn a lot more about, like I said, there's more of it in this movie than there has
Mm-hmm.
been in princess movies up to this date, but really, what is your role in the community? Like, what else do you do? What are these other communities like? And there's not a ton of that they can pack into like 90 minutes, but I would have liked to have seen an example of, or even just like the mother talking about, like, well, when I was your age, this was the contest that your dad won to, get to marry me. And
Yeah,
the other suitors, boy, they were weird. I'm glad your dad won.
yeah.
That guy
They
from that
played ping
clan.
pong.
Yeah, like I wanted to learn more about the culture of the thing, and it's such a small, like tight knit story the whole time. Oh,
There's
I did want
really
to learn
only
more.
like two, three, like three or four locations.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Yeah. Which I mean, again, I really like how tight and
Yeah.
compact this story is. I wish a lot more stories were like that. It's just one of those things. Like, because it's that way, it cut out something else that I knew I would have really liked. I'm just like,
Yeah.
ah.
Yeah, I've always been a person that can sit down for a longer movie, but I think this is exactly as long as it should be
Yes.
for the audience it's going for. Like, it's exactly at child attention span length and no longer.
So I have a really weird, not even nitpick. This is just something that
Uh-huh.
I want to know if you noticed at
Okay.
all. Um, this is again such a really
Uh-huh.
weird thing. Did did you think that their mouths did not fit the animation style at all? When for some
Huh.
reason when I was watching it, it seemed like their mouths were more 2D than the rest of everything else.
Oh no, I didn't see this at all.
I feel like I'm crazy with
I
this,
well,
but
you are an artist, you are a visual person, and I watch this on just like a 36-inch TV, which ain't that big of a TV nowadays. And you watch this on a computer screen, like like this far away from your
I mean
face,
it's
I'll
it's like a
bet.
27.
You
It's the one I'm on right
Oh
now.
boy.
Yeah, it's like an
So
arm's
you
length
can
away.
see everything so much better than me watching like a 36-inch from across the room. I get why you would have picked up on it, but nah, I wasn't
This
following
is
that at
like
all.
this is just it's a weird thing that I saw, and it's like I don't know if I did see it or if that's actually what was going on, or if
You're
I'm
just
just
hallucinating
crazy.
timing errors.
So let me explain. It's not timing.
Okay.
It's not that the audio was off sync
Okay.
or stuff like that. But obviously Pixar animation is always fantastic. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I mean, just look at the way they animated Merida's hair. It's a mess,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic, and I love it.
Mhm.
Um, but it looked like all the characters were 3D. They moved in three-dimensional like environments and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but it looked like their mouths were flat. When they opened their mouths, it did not look like there was depth like going into their mouth. And so I'm one like in the back of my mind, my tinfoil hat was on. I'm sitting there. I wonder if they have some system of animating this to make
Where
it
the
look,
mouths are
yeah,
done separate and they plug them out on later like it's
yeah,
a Mr. Potato Head.
kind of. Because, but yeah, I don't know what I was
I don't
smoking
think that's
or
true.
whatnot. But yeah, we're just like, I think their mouths are flat. But apparently you did not pick up on that, so I am crazy.
No, not at all.
All right, so then something else that I want to talk
Mhm.
about then, character design, especially between the males and the females, the men and the women
Mhm.
here. Uh, I don't know if I've come to a conclusion of why they did what they did, but
Mhm.
all of the men in this are very, very much like caricatures. Like
They
they
are.
have
Oh
like
yeah.
very, very elongated heads or very, very puffed out chests with tiny arms, and it's just this like over the top cartoony caricature of these,
Mhm.
I guess you could say, stereotypes. But then the women, which there's not very many. I think there's what, 3 women in this movie.
Mostly, yeah.
Maybe there's
Which
a
is kind
couple
of
of them in the
like, yeah,
background,
it's
but
kind of like it makes sense for the plot. Like if it's like
yeah,
we are sending our young lads to go and try
to
and court
fight,
the
yeah,
princess, it's like them and like their dads and like their brothers and uncles and
all
cousins.
the
Like
manly men.
it's yeah, it's kind of a boys' party like for a logistic reason. So like you
Yeah,
don't miss the fact
but
that it's kind of light on the ladies.
the 3 women that they do have in this, the
Hmm.
queen, the princess, and then the like maiden, are
And
a lot more
and the witch. So I guess there's four.
yeah, the witch, there's 4. They're with the exception of the witch, they are a lot more realistic looking. They're
Yeah.
not necessarily realistic, they are still
Hmm.
cartoony in certain aspects, but they are a lot more realistic. And so I'm wondering if there was some kind of purpose or metaphor to
I
that.
don't think so. I think that's something that has happened in animation a lot, just the sort of hesitance to make a lot of female characters very exaggerated, especially like
I don't know.
main leads.
I feel like, well, yeah, sure, especially in main leads, but I feel like there's a number of Disney movies where there are women that are this more caricature stuff, whether it's Cruella de Vil or it's the sisters from God, what I am, my mind is doing one of those things where it can't remember something that I should absolutely remember.
Were they villains? Are you thinking
Yes,
about
the sisters
Cinderella's
of
sisters?
the what?
Cinderella's
Yes,
sisters?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Where I like
Yeah,
I
caricature is for antagonists. I think this is a very old school
usually,
thing where like the protagonists and like the ladies whose side we're supposed to be on are supposed to be a little bit prettier. And I think that's something that they've been trying to work on. Like, okay, we gotta like make them as exaggerated and stretchy and rubbery and like as physically comedic as any of the male counterparts.
but then do can we think of any like male protagonists that were also more caricature stuff?
Ah,
I mean,
I
I'm
don't
even
know.
thinking of like again, Roger from 101 Dalmatians with his big
Yeah, and
nose and
like
his
you think about
pipe and
the recent princes,
blank voice.
like you look at Kristoff next to Anna, and he's got like a lot like sort of broader, more like interesting, quirky features. Or you look at like,
Even like Hercules.
Flynn Rider next to Rapunzel. Yeah, yeah.
Like I see, or I feel like I see. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, but I feel like I see more. Like yeah, I guess just more men being this caricature thing, regardless
Exactly.
of if they're a protagonist or an antagonist.
Yes, yes.
Um, but yeah, then when you get one where the woman is front and center, I feel like it was on purpose. I mean, guess you could say Merida's hair is kind of a
Yeah, like that's the
caricature-ish
quirk that she
feature.
gets. Yes. And then even like
I don't
that's
know.
the defining feature for
I
her
don't even know if
mom
I'm making
also is
sense.
that she has these like long like in almost impossibly long like these two braids going down the back of her head that are just like
Hmm.
so tightly wound. And like that's where their cartoony element gets to come in, whereas the dad is so like just snaggled and like war bitten and he's all like
Yeah,
notched up. Yeah.
his nose goes out like a foot from his face, you know. Which I mean, it might what I guess what I was trying to investigate there might not actually be a thing, but
Yeah, I think
I
that's
feel
something
like
I do remember reading about that there is a tendency to have more exaggerated male characters and more like very traditional,
conventional, yeah.
straightforward looking female characters.
Um,
Except for if they have to play like a really exaggerated role like the villainess.
yeah. Which makes sense, but I'm almost like, I think in this film in particular, it adds to this kind of royalty, like I guess royalty of just this, like, you need to be a princess, you need to be this very
Yeah,
conventional
and it
like thing, and
I
they put
yeah,
her
I
in
see
that
that.
the outfit with all the, it looked like they had something tied around her neck and the top of
Mhm.
her head, and she had the corset on, and she's like,
Yeah,
I
it's like
can't
a
breathe, I
bonnet
can't
that
move,
goes
yeah.
around the entirety of your head.
And they make her to look more conventional, and she's just like,
Hmm.
I freaking hate this thing, like,
Yeah.
he knows. But like, besides, I guess, her not being that traditional
Hmm.
princess, she is a lot less of a caricature um, than maybe what I might expect from, because she especially
Hmm.
since this is like a turn on its head, like I would expect her to be more of a not prim and
Hmm.
proper looking
Okay.
character, maybe.
No, I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. Like I know, um, like Disenchanted, for instance. Like that
Okay.
princess is an unconventional princess, but she also looks like she's got kind of like a gap in her teeth. She's like she acts wild and she looks a little goofy too to go along with it. Whereas Merida is, again, except for the crazy hair, just a lot more straightforward looking.
Yeah, because I
Mm.
know in a lot of recent just films in general, the whole like, hey, we would like to see more body positive representation and
Hmm.
different types of body types and stuff like that, and I think that's fantastic, but
Yeah.
I also kind of just want, like, make, I don't know if in this sense
Y-
caricature is the best word
Yeah,
there, but
exactly. Like
make more quirky looking characters, because I think that gives us something to latch on to.
yeah, like I'd be fine if the entire cast is skinny ladies, if they're varieties of skinny and like maybe, like their shoulders are at different angles or their hips are at different angles or anything like that. Yeah.
I
Like
mean,
playing
yeah,
with
just like
variety beyond just
to an
like
extreme, yeah,
physical types. Yes.
yeah. Like I want some that has, uh, yeah, just like they are the big
Yeah.
frizzy hair, but to the point where like that is all of them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like they
Just
like,
it as a body type. Yes.
yeah, exactly. Like that, I think that would be really funny. I
Okay.
think seeing female characters that looked um more like the,
Oh,
what was the,
or
more
like
like the
the
the three brother, or the, not, are they, no,
yeah,
they're
those
not,
are her three little brothers.
no, I'm not them. The three clan
Oh, the three fellow the other clan
leaders. Yeah,
leaders.
one with that like really skinny face and just like
Yeah.
wildly messy black hair, and then yeah, the like Broomhilda type of, like, she
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
ginormous and she can like fight just as well as that. Like,
Yeah.
show me her. Where is she? You know, just like I
You
want to see all of those types, and
yeah.
not just
You
the, there was like the maid of the castle who was like she was bigger breasted,
mhm.
but like not to an extent where it was like this is a cartoon of
Yeah,
that,
she's
or
not Jessica Rabbit. Yeah.
yeah. So who knows?
I I want to talk about her for a second because she is this very like large woman.
Yeah,
Well, not in that she's like all of her frame. She's a bigger gal to begin with,
she's thick.
but like yeah, yes, and she's got quite a chest on her, and that's kind of like it's never sexualized, but it's kind of played as something slightly goofy. Like, so this is a very frantic character. She's very nervous. She's the one who's always catching all the weird stuff going on around the castle, and she's sort of nervous and flustery. And the comedy is that, like, she just got a lot of extra stuff to just sort of flail and jiggle around while she's running in a panic. Like,
Yeah,
it kind of played into the physical comedy of her.
The way
And she's
she
got
walks,
this, like,
she has this
her little
bounce.
steps and she bounces. Yeah, I thought that I kind of liked that they're like, okay, let's use breasts for something other than sexualization. Like let's enhance like these other features of her character with these.
Yeah.
And Kyle, have you ever been to a Renaissance fair?
I have not.
Well, you're missing out. So I'm watching this movie and I'm like, this is even understanding that it isn't for like any kind of adult purpose at all. It's just like a genuinely very interesting, like artistic body study and like the way that body moves. Like there's a lot of this, but then the Renaissance times, the medieval times, as far as I can understand them from Renaissance fairs, were all about cleavage.
Oh,
You
yeah.
go to a Renaissance fair, it's all like how
small
tight,
waist push up, like
how tight can the bodice be? How like horizontal as just like a cleavage shelf can I get my chest? Seriously, it's
Cleavage
all
shelf.
over the place. That's the point of the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? It ain't inaccurate. That is true.
Yeah, and then they go as far as like when Merida is locked up in the like when she's locked up in her room in the castle, and the three little brothers are out to get the key. She's like, well, what do I do with the key? Oh, stick it in my shirt because they can't get it there, but they don't care.
No, that means nothing to them.
Yeah.
They'll scamper right into that, that lady in waiting cleavage to get that key.
Which is really funny because, they don't sexualize her like the way she walks and just her
nobody's
bounce.
Nobody's looking at her. But like she's not being ogled. The only person looking at her is us, the audience.
Yeah, in that scene, it's really funny that the boys like have to like dive in from above.
It's almost
it's
like
this weird thing, like he's diving in,
impossible dissension thing. Yeah,
it's really funny. But then it's one of those things where they don't show it and it's off screen, so it's like, all right, cool. We know what happened. We understood, but her character is really funny. Where she has that scene where she's just.
Yeah, she's at one speed and it is nervous the whole time.
It's great.
And there's a lot of this being a Scottish film. There are kilt jokes in it also. And like at the end when this magic wears off the mom and off the three little boys who the spell also got, passed on to them, they're all naked when they come out of the spell, which makes sense. And I like that fine layer of bodiness over this movie. Because again, that feels maybe this is inaccurate. You know what? No, it ain't. Because you think about Shakespeare. Shakespeare's all dirty jokes the entire time. That's what that guy was about.
Exactly.
You go to so I was thinking like, well, I go to the Renaissance fair and the Renaissance fair is really bawdy, and who knows if that's historically accurate, but that's what people know about it now. And I'm like, well, if we're basing it off, the bard there, those were just dirty times, and now the representations of them now are dirty times, but like fun dirty times. And this being a family friendly movie for children, it does not go. This is far tamer than any Renaissance fair I've gone to.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still just like this fine dusting of bawdiness over the top of it. where it's just like, haha, butts, delightful. That I don't know, that I like and that I think is handled well enough. Yeah.
Did you notice in the background of the scene where the one guy lifts up his kilt and he's like, "Take a look at that"? In the
Mhm.
background, there's a family with two kids, and the kids see it and are like, "Ugh, like what in the world?" And the mom was like, "Don't look at that."
Yeah, I think I did spot that. Yeah.
It's really funny.
Hmm.
They have some good comedy in the Pixar
Yeah.
films.
Yeah. This is oh. I wouldn't call it the funniest of it, but it's
Not at all.
very warm-hearted and delightful, like through and through. I think the funniest part of the whole thing is like the witch and her crow. I
Yeah.
love how I love how weird that gets. I like how the crow like never gets up to the status of like Iago or any other like wisecracking sidekick. He just throws out a couple lines. Like he's not supposed to be a character. He's supposed to talk like just throw out some chatter every once in a while to just sort of unsettle you. It's not
Hmm.
like whack talking animal character. It's like why is that animal talking? Animals aren't supposed to do that.
Yeah. Um. So I eventually here want to talk a little bit, at least mention the whole like Pixar theory thing.
I did
I
watch
don't
a
know if we
video
want to
about
get.
this.
I don't know if we want to get into that yet. Did you have
Um,
anything else that you wanted to talk
uh,
about with this
like
film?
just another nod to how much I love this magic. I love when magic like transforms a space. Like I
Mm-hmm.
like Merida finds this little witch's hut, and it's the wood carving hut to begin with. And then the witch is like, "Oh, okay, you want a spell? Well, here, follow me out." And she fall and like they step out, and the witch says, "You never cast where you carve." And she like casts a spell or knocks on the door and does something, and she opens the door back in, and it's a completely different space. I always love stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like this
that's
felt so like it hit a lot of very classic kind of folklore, like witchy stuff, but it felt
so.
really fresh.
Let's talk a little bit more about the witch
Hmm.
then and her whole thing there. So obviously she has these magical powers. She can make the broom do its own thing,
That's
while
great too.
she can make animals talk, which is what I'm assuming she did with the crow. And she can turn people into animals and stuff like that. She has this obsession with bears,
Yes.
which is something again we'll mention once we get to the Pixar theory thing. But I kind of find that strange. I understand it in the sense that like thematically with this
Hmm.
movie, like the mother gets turned into a bear, the guy that came before
Hmm.
them asking for this, he gets turned into a bear. But I'm assuming she's been a witch for a lot longer than that, and that
Yeah.
she doesn't really seem to have a personal stake in either of the families. And so I just found her obsession with like, I'm just gonna carve all of these bears really strange.
Yeah, it is interesting. You do wonder because we were only given those two instances of her magical ability. We don't
Mm-hmm.
know what else does she do. Like again, to reference another the princess film, Ursula has a reputation for helping people. Ariel is definitely not the first person to come to her. She's not the second person. There's a litany of other
Right.
people who have come to her asking for some sort of great prize or, great benefit to them at a cost. And it's general enough that she's reused it a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
What this witch does seems a little specific. Like we've got the two instances of her magic beyond just like the little things she does around her hut, and it's turning people into bears. What
Yeah.
else does she do? Why does she do that? Are all of her spells bear related? What role does she play in the community? Is she from a clan? Does she have friends? What are her connections? Does she have allies? Does she have enemies?
Exactly.
She's just this weird force out there, and she disappears to somewhere.
Yeah. It's another one of those things where it's just like it's mentioned, it happens, and then they move on.
Yeah, this is a movie that doesn't really stop and ask questions because it has its sights on this family relationship and it's not really doing anything outside of that
Is
family relationship.
do do you by chance off the top of your head, do you happen to know if bears are like an important symbol in Scottish mythology
I
or
really
something?
don't know. Like, I don't know, like, the natural fauna of that area. I guess they must have bears, but, like, I don't know if that's, like, the most prolific animal around there.
Bears in Scottish mythology. Mythologies and folklores of bear. That's not going to give me anything specific to
Mm.
Scottish mythology, though.
Yeah, I am kind of curious, like,
Bears in
why a bear and
Celtic
not
mythology.
anything else? Yeah.
What does
Because
that
it
say?
seems
Oh, that's
like
a
the whole
forum.
thing, okay, the bear seems to only come from this witch and not from anywhere else. Like, I don't know if
What do
there's
you mean?
I don't know if there's any importance or any significance given to a bear throughout this movie that does not have to do with some development of that witch. Like they've got like
I guess you
bears.
could say that.
Yeah, like it all kind of, except for there might be like a hunting trophy or two on the back on the king's wall, but like
Yeah, I mean, I think the bear obviously does represent this like big feat of like I took down a
yes,
bear. I am
yes.
strong. I am a man. But yeah, I think we don't really need to think long and hard about that. It's just like okay, yeah,
Merida
that's a
has this
big thing.
necklace. Merida has this necklace, and it's like part of the princess outfit that her mom dresses her up in before this,
Hmm.
feats of strength from all the clan boys, the boys from the various visiting clans that are there to like fight for her honor and for to win her hand.
Yeah.
Like she gets this necklace that is like these three bears kind of twined together, but that might only go so far back as, well, your dad, fought that big bear once, so now that's a family trait.
Yeah,
But was it
we're the
before?
bear
And that bear is a
defeaters.
bear that the witch created. Like, is there any bear significance outside of her? Is this all because, like, that's just her favorite animal and there's something about her that has just permeated the setting and all of these tiny little you can't even all see and connect? And
Hmm.
it's bears just because that lady likes bears.
Yeah, that might be it. She just like happens to like them. Who knows?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And again, we have a lot of questions, but it's perfectly fine that the movie does not stop and also think about the things we're thinking about. Like I said, it
yeah,
set its sights on something.
exactly,
It went for it. It didn't need to do anything else.
exactly. Um, let's go ahead and start talking about this whole Pixar theory thing.
Yeah, you'd mentioned that you wanted to talk about this, so I did like
A little bit,
watch a
yeah.
video before
Because
we got started recording.
it's one of those things. When I watched the movie, I didn't notice anything. I know that Pixar likes to hint at things from time to time.
Yeah, and like
Uh,
it has a lot of Easter eggs. Like you see in the wood carvings in the witch's little shop, she's got a wood carving of Sully and a wood
yeah,
carving of the Pizza Planet truck from Toy
yeah,
Story.
which is stuff that I didn't notice the first time, and
They're hard to spot.
they are.
Yeah, but I've had them pointed out to me.
But it was one of those things that like after watching, I saw it on the internet
Oh,
somewhere.
sure.
It was like, oh my god, they're all connected. Here's this wild theory. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm sure there's a million videos and stuff out there now, but apparently the guy that kind of put it all together is this guy named John Negroni, who
Yes.
now has a book out on
Yeah,
the whole thing.
yeah, and before we get started, I watched a video from the Super Carlin brothers, who's
Okay.
this yeah, and they had like a really long like they made a video in like 2012. This big long video
Is that the
outlining the Pixar theory.
same family that does hardcore history, that podcast.
Oh, no.
Dan
I think that is
Carlin's
no, that's a
hardcore
different
history.
Carlin. No,
The hardcore Pixar history.
These are different boys. And they put out a
Imagine,
new.
imagine Dan Carlin doing an episode on the history of Pixar and the whole like timeline of all of those
That sounds
films.
fun. They made a video ages ago and then would release these little supplements like, okay, we have a new movie out. This is how it fits in. And they made a video like last summer, just after Incredibles 2, where it's like, okay, here's another everything up to date so far, the entirety of the Pixar theory and how everything fits together. And Brave is a major linchpin in that.
Yeah, it's kind of the centerpiece.
Yeah, so it's the theory is that all of the Pixar movies are connected and all take place in one world where there has been all the way from the good dinosaur in the past to Wall-E in the future. And it's about like animals rise and fall and humans rise and fall and then like machines rise
And
and
the
all along
insects
the
rise
way woman inherits the earth. And then and like humans are continually seen as the source of like life. You know, in Monsters Inc., like they harvest the screams, then later they harvest the laughs from kids to fuel their city. You
Yep.
know, the toys feel alive because the kids believe in them. In Coco, like you only exist in the afterlife as long as a living person still remembers you. And it all sort of comes. I just watched a video on this before we got started, and even like 5 minutes in, I'm like, okay, all right, this is too much for me to tackle right now. Like, I only have
Yeah,
so
I
much
mean,
energy left. I have to save it for actually recording and not trying to piece together this thing. So
I
I don't
think
100% have this thing.
I think long story short, yeah, the start of it was the good dinosaur, where you get the scene where a meteor looks like it's about to hit the Earth and
Yes.
kill the dinosaurs, but it misses the Earth. So this
Yep.
is the alternate timeline in which
Yes.
all of the Pixar movies take place. And yeah, it goes on to be this alternate what if the dinosaurs lived a little bit longer, eventually humans came, and eventually we get to the point where, yeah, we have to leave Earth because we're terrible and we destroyed the planet, and mega corporations, this B&L corporation, I think their name is By and Large,
Yep.
is, yeah, they end up running this mega corporation that runs these governments and all this stuff, and we shoot out into space, and then like while we're out in space, a lot of the robots we left behind become sentient, but they die out because there's a shortage of gasoline, I guess, because there's no more people drilling the I don't know, but
At some point, you know, humans become cars,
where
all kinds of stuff.
Brave fits in with this is
Yes.
this theory kind of posits that the witch in Brave is actually Boo from Monsters Inc.
And that's why she's obsessed with bears, because Sully is a bear-like figure to her.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
where did they meet each other? He came in through a door, and she went through the door and found this magical world. So that's why she like can change out whatever is in her little hut just based on opening and closing the door.
Trying to find him against it, which is also a really sad tale that eventually one day he had to stop. Right, he had to stop coming, and she's just like, "What the hell, dude?" And this her entire life, she's trying to find him and stuff like that. But then it also, I mean, sure, this theory is not without its plot holes and stuff like that.
And you know, it's definitely
one of those
not
things of, like, if she
intentional.
can time travel, why doesn't she just go back to the time when Sully was visiting her and be like, "Hey, dude, this is me from the future. I'm an old woman now. I've been looking for you your entire life. What the hell?" But yeah, I just think it's a really fun theory. It's a really fun idea that all of this is kind of connected.
And it's definitely one of those things that is not intentional, like most
Yeah.
theories about things on the internet. No, the creators didn't plan that. No, this isn't real. But it is fun to kind of put these puzzle pieces together and sort of build that, tie the red string around things and, figure it out, see
Yeah.
how it could come together.
Exactly.
And that's why it's called a theory. It's entirely theoretical. It's just fun. I've never been very invested in it. I knew the general concept of the thing that
Hmm.
I read years ago, probably when this movie came out, and this was the first time I'd revisited it since then. Some people make a whole big deal out of it. For me, it's just like passing fun every once in a
I
while.
I think, I mean, I don't ever see Pixar making this an actual
Oh no,
thing.
it's so convoluted.
Absolutely. Um, but I think it would be really cool to see them acknowledge it in some way, like officially. Like, what if they did a short about it, like a
Yeah.
Pixar short where in like that guy they have a Pixar equivalent in this guy's
Oh,
universe, and he's coming up with this wild
oh, it's the
theory.
teacher from The Incredibles who like believes that Dash has super speed.
Yeah,
Remember
it's
that
something
guy?
like that, but then he
Yeah.
eventually gets hired by that animation studio to make the story of like
Mhm.
how just a story that involves that of this guy who's like, I have this theory, I have this idea, and he just looks batshit insane, right? But then they're actually
Mhm.
like, you're actually right, you should come work for us and
You
tell that
figured it
story.
out.
Yeah, you figured it out. In fact, we'll let you. I think that would be a neat, like, it's like, good one.
Isn't that
Good
the
one.
plot of the new Men in Black? Like she finds Men in Black and they're like, okay, I guess we'll hire you because you found us.
Exactly. Exactly. Um yeah, I guess I don't really have much else to say about
Oh,
Brave or that
it's
theory. It's neat. You can go look it up. The guy, let me pull up the website again here.
mhm.
It is on. He has the whole thing listed out on his website. I'm sure you can. I typed in Brave Pixar theory and it popped
Mhm.
up. It was like one of the top three, but it's on this guy's website, johnnegroni.com, and it's JON,
Mhm.
not JOHN. But yeah, and I'm sure there's tons and tons of YouTube
Oh
videos,
yeah.
both proving and disproving it, and I'm sure. And the book I think you
Mhm.
can get for like $7. So there you go. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go watch Brave
Yeah,
if
I think
you
these are our
haven't. Go watch it
concluding
with your mom.
statements. Yeah, watch it with your mom, watch it with anybody. Watch it with a bear if you know one.
I will not watch it here or there. I will not watch it with a bear. I will not watch it with my mom. I will not watch it while.
It is a very I'm really glad I revisited this one.
Yeah.
It's such a good fairy tale. Like if you're like me and you're just a big fantasy nerd, it's a
Hmm.
great fantasy story even if that is not the most important part of it.
Yeah. I think it is good. Melissa,
Yes.
it is my turn to do some pitches, and I'm trying to figure out my
Hmm.
third pitch of
Okay.
this stuff. I'm trying to see.
And I gave you
This
a
is,
challenge, or I guess a limitation this week, which
yeah.
is that I am in a wedding next weekend. So I have a very busy week ahead of me. So I asked you to please pick short things that I could sandwich into my crowded schedule in the next couple days.
Exactly.
So no
Okay, I
TV
think I'm
shows or anything like that.
cool. So that's what I'm gonna do for my third one. So let me
Okay.
close those guys out. And then let me pull up the at least the Wikipedia pages for my other two things, which are. Give me one sec. I should have pulled this up a little bit earlier ago. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. There's that one. And then I guess I don't really need one for that one. All right.
Yes.
Pitching what we'll do for this next week.
Mm-hmm.
Short stuff. I have 2 movies and a manga, which is only 1 volume. And it's
Oh,
like
that should be a
200
very quick
something
read.
pages long. So
Yeah.
the first movie that I wanted to pitch is called Attack the Block.
Yes.
I haven't seen this
I
film,
haven't seen this either.
and I've in podcasts past, in the first iteration of this show, I think I ended up pitching it like 2 or 3 times, and it never got picked.
Paul.
So I am still being like, I want to watch this, but I want to talk about it with someone. This is a
yes, exactly.
It's a sci-fi comedy horror film done in this really interesting style, and it stars John Boyega, who is now in all the Star Wars films. I'm almost certain this is the film that put him on the map to get him in the Star Wars films. But from what I understand, it is this. Let's see. The film centers on a teenage street gang who have to. Is that right? Who have to defend? I guess that's right. Not has to. That has to. Whatever. They have to defend themselves from predatory alien invaders on a council estate in South London on Guy Fawkes night. Remember, the 5th of November.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that was part of it. I know Guy Fawkes night was an ingredient in this story.
I did not know that either. I'm looking at or maybe I did because it was years ago that this came out. But yeah, I always thought this looked neat. It looked like a sweet little sci-fi indie film that I wanted to.
The monsters are real cool
out.
looking.
Yeah, the monsters are almost pitch black except for their eyes, so they look almost 2D.
Yeah,
it's this weird effect where there's like no light on them. It looks neat. So that is Attack the Block, starring John Boyega. That's pitch number 1. Pitch number 2 is an animated movie of the DC Comics variety. Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Ooh.
This is often considered one of the best Batman movies.
Yes,
period.
This is what I have heard.
I own, I think, the DVD of this, if not the Blu-ray. I'm not sure which one. But yeah, it is a Batman story from that is like a spin-off of the Batman the animated series. There's a new villain that comes to town, and it is this specter. It is this phantasm. And Batman is haunted by this villain who apparently knows him and knows who he is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I've not watched this in a long time, so he has to figure out who it is. And yeah, it's one of those things, despite it being an animated film, there's a lot of people that consider this to be one of the best Batman films out there.
Yeah.
So I say that is worth talking about at some point. Pitch number 3, however, is the manga. So we've covered a couple. You and I have at least done 1 or 2 things of Satoshi Kon's.
Yes.
He also does manga. He has a couple of manga. There's one that I've had on like my list of potential things to do. This one is called Tropic of the Sea.
Okay.
And it says Yosuke's family has a strange tradition. Once every 60 years, they receive an egg from a mermaid. When the egg matures, his family dutifully returns it to the sea, where the whole process is repeated. In exchange for this favor, the mer people bless his coastal town with bountiful catches of fish and calm seas. So I
What's
know
the conflict in this story? That just sounded like a nice situation.
It might be a slice of life. There might not
Could
be much
yeah.
of a conflict here, which is funny you ask that, because I know Satoshi Kon's work for usually being this like reality bending,
yeah,
like what is going on here? There's some kind of twist or heavy like just like mind fuck. And
yep.
I don't know. I've not heard much about this. I don't know if it's bad or good, but it is a manga by one of my favorite creators that I want to check out. And yeah, this one struck me as odd because it didn't seem like there was much of a twist or
what a puzzle.
reality bending thing there. It might just be a slice of life. So pitch number 1 was Attack the Block. Pitch number 2 was Batman Mask of the Phantasm. And pitch number 3 was Tropic of the Sea by Satoshi Kon.
It's about time both of us watch Attack the Block. Because we were just talking about it so much, still having not seen it. Like, I've heard about this thing for ages. Like, it's time to really watch it with my own 2 eyes.
Hell yeah. I think that sounds good. So I was gonna say we recorded this episode at a different time than normal. It's looking. Are we gonna have to record at a different time next week? Is that? I know you're busy, which is why we pitched these short. Like, let's just watch one movie, or
I took another look at the wedding itinerary, and it doesn't go as late as I thought it did, but it is like an entire 12-hour day for me. Man. Where one of my bridesmaid duties is playing a drinking game at the reception in front of everybody. So I told you this, like, I don't know if 11 a.m. the next day is going to be great for me. So this may be another nighttime record for us.
Sure.
And then we skipped it today because it was Mother's Day.
Yeah, I was going to say, be on the lookout on Twitter. We'll mention,
we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, if you guys want to join the live stream, patreon.com/the Whatnauts, and you can join for $1 a month. We post the link to all of this stuff in our Discord server on the patron-only channel, so you guys can get involved that way. But the episode will come out on the normal time of Wednesdays. So there you go. Melissa, where can they find you on the magical interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT.
And I am at YoKyleSpringer on Twitter and Instagram. I already mentioned our Twitter, which is at the Whatnauts.
Yeah.
You guys can go keep up to date with all of our podcasts, not just this one. Again, be on the lookout for that Detective Pikachu spoiler cast. Go like, share, subscribe, sell your soul, hit the bell, hit someone else you don't know. Who knows? That being said, let's get out of here. This has been episode 57 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you guys next time. Adios.
Bye.
Whoa, you made it all the way to the end of that episode of the review show. That's amazing. Thank you. You guys should go check out our other videos down here. Subscribe to our channel up there. Hit the buttons. Do all that stuff. That would be fantastic. We have more podcasts than just this one. Go check out our other ones. Thank you.